Hi, sorry about that. Forgot to turn the light off. Hi, it's me again, and this week we're going to talk about my allergies, but in the food section this time. So, as I told you last week, the changes that I've had to make with my use of chemicals and things like that in everyday life has been extensive but highly successful. This week, what I'm going to talk to you about is my food allergies. If you go to or Google salicylate diet, or just look at the thumbnail for this particular, whatever it's called, goodness gracious, you can see that basically the two types of fruit that I am able to eat are yellow pears and bananas. I have to stick mainly to the column that says nil, because even if I go to the low or moderate, it does build up over time, and it does eventually make me sick. And that is really nothing that you want to experience. It's very, very unpleasant. And I have found other people who have this, because I believe that this is quite rare, because you do have people who are either lactose intolerant, or they have a nut allergy, or they're celiac, which is gluten. It is all specified, so it's just one thing, whereas I have, as I said, I have lots, but it's because of the meningoencephalitis and the proteins that my body used to stay alive. So now, as I said before, they're recognized as foreign bodies, and that is why my person attacks them with all enthusiastic vigor. And so it is best for me if I don't. And that has led to a lot of changes in my life, because you have to look at it the way that it's the difference between somebody who is born blind and somebody who goes blind. When you're born blind, you've always been blind. You don't know what you're missing because you have never been able to see. Whereas somebody who goes blind and has been able to see and enjoy the color and wonder that is nature and things like this, and then they go blind, they know exactly what they're missing. Up until my mid-20s, I was the biggest garbage guts that you would find. I could eat everything and anything, and I did um, a lot of that, because I was a very active child and then a very active teenager, and I lived a very active outdoor life. So my appetite was a very hearty one, and I would eat anything. And even a couple of times when we went to camp, and it turned out that we were eating something like, I think it was the rice porridge or something that they'd used, the milk had gone off or something. Everybody else who ate that was horribly, horribly sick with food poisoning. Not a cracker. Didn't even upset the timetable in me. Just kept on trucking. Just nothing. Um, and that was the norm for me. I'd just eat everything and anything, and I'd love it. So having gone from that to surviving on boiled rice and boiled white potatoes, because I can't even eat red potatoes because the salicylate under the skin, and it's always under the skin where the salicylates are more prevalent on skinned vegetables. So I went from eating everything to living on boiled white potatoes and boiled rice and bananas and yellow pears. That was it. That was all I could eat for 12 months. And of course, I lost a lot of weight. Like, my natural healthy weight is about 85 kilos. And during that time, during my sickness, and then the aftermath and the fallout from the change in diet, I went down to 50 kilos. So I lost 35 kilos. And in somebody as tall as me, because I'm quite tall, I'm about 5'10", something like that, 185 centimeters in new money. That is not a lot for my body to have. And it has now, obviously, we're 20 years on. Now I'm used to it. And although I look at pizza lovingly, caringly, devotingly, if I'd had children, I would sell my eldest child to have a piece of pizza. I know that what will happen if I do that, and the resulting sickness is just not worth it. So I try to avoid that sort of thing. And my long-suffering partner, who's just wonderful, will go crazy with pizza when I'm not here, just so I can't have him eat it in front of me, because that's just awful. But it has made a challenge for cooking and eating. But at the same time, it has made me very aware of what goes into our food, because along with salicylates, I also, as you know, with the chemicals, I can't stomach artificial flavors, preservatives, colors, or additives, sulfides, fluorides, all that stuff that people just eat and take for granted because they don't have to think about what's in their food. I do. I have to eat organic. I have to spend the $6 for, organic sun-dried sultanas, because I can't have the regular chemical dried ones that are done with sulfides so they can get them out faster and they cost $1.50. I can't do that because I get sick instantly. So, and that sort of thing. And then in recent times, because of the amount of medication that I've had to take to get all the epilepsy and everything under control, because most of the time epilepsy is either electrical or chemical, but because mine came from an acquired brain injury, I have both. So I have to take 2 lots of very strong medication to sort that out. And we have been very successful. Touch wood, it has been a good 10 years since my last seizure, which is great because those are not fun. But from this, it has affected my stomach. And so I have developed a wheat and a dairy intolerance, just, because that's the kind of fun life that I have. So but again, it's okay. It's okay, because with the cost of bread and milk these days, you go broke. People who have families who are using a loaf of bread a day, and they're like $6 a loaf, and that's for the cheap, shitty ones. That's I don't think I'm missing out there. But we did buy a bread maker, and we have found, spelt bread and rye bread, because I'm not intolerant to gluten. I have a wheat intolerance. There is a big difference. I can have gluten. I have a wheat intolerance. So that is very different. I can have gluten. So I can use any other flour to do any baking and bread making and whatever else. You just can't have wheat. So we bought a bread maker, and there's a lovely Whole Foods store called The Source, just down the road from us, who has an amazing array of all sorts of things wondrous, in flours and sugars and everything you could possibly think of that you might want to need. And so I go down there, and after a bit of trial and error, there has been some epic fails that we just threw in the compost bin, because they were like house bricks. And after that, we had a couple of epic fails the other way, that were just exploded out of the bread maker and just went everywhere. But I make my own bread now, and when I'm making other things that require dairy, I substitute oil and coconut yogurt. So it's yogurt that is made out of coconut milk, and I have discovered that works just as well. So you substitute the oil for the butter, and depending on what you're making, it's either half or a third, depending on what you're doing. And the when you need to thicken something up and you would usually use cream, I just use the coconut the coconut yogurt, and you can't taste the difference. And especially since I can tolerate a bit of coconut, it's great. And that has made a lot of difference because I was having a lot of reflux and stuff like that, and that has been a way to manage that because I've actually come off the reflux medication now. So then that's another thing that I don't have to take, because I'm all about the least amount of medication that I can take to exist in the world is a good thing, because, well, you know, there's a lot of drugs out there, but so I'm down to a minimal amount of necessary drugs now, which is great. But you do have to be very organized in order to do the weekly shop. And you do have to be pretty stringent on your planning for your nightly meals. So, if you want to, well, I'm very lucky. My parents have an extraordinary vegetable garden. So we are up to our eyeballs in tomatoes right now. So I can use tomatoes a little bit more than I used to be able to. I can stomach them. So I get all the fresh tomatoes, and I make my own tomato soup, which is very, very easy. Basically, you just cut them up, stick them in the blender, and add a bit of salt or whatever. I can't have any herbs, but you just stick them in there, blend them up, or cook them and then blend them, depending on what you want. Stick your herbs in there and you freeze it. And then you have, because it's crazy when you look at the labels. And I suggest that the next time you go to the supermarket and you are buying your regular stuff, just have a look at the label and read it and see exactly how much stuff is in it. Like I use soy or rice milk. I had to stop using soy milk because soy is genetically modified from Brazil nuts now, unless you get the organic one. And because Dave has a nut allergy, that was no good to him, in case he accidentally picked up the soy milk or had a sip of something, purple lips and swelling and ambulances, just no fun at all. But then I had to go on to the organic rice milk because instead of it just being like rice and sugar and water, the last thing in the line of ingredients was the rice. There was so much stuff, which was crazy. And so it's really important that people understand where the food is coming from and support local growers, and read your labels and see exactly what you're eating, because I think that, yes, cooking things from scratch does take so much more time, but it's so much better for you to not be ingesting all of these chemicals. And I know I sound like I should get up on my soapbox and start swinging around the activist, but this is just my story, and I'm just trying to help other people and suggest. And there's only so much you can do with bananas and pears. And so with the help of my partner's mother and my mother and my grandmother when she was still alive, so I put my fruit in smoothies. Because you don't, if you just put rice milk in a smoothie, it just goes mushy and gross, and it's like drinking vomit. What I imagine drinking vomit would be like if I ever drank vomit. But you know what I'm saying? It's coming out, so that's what it looks like. It looks like vomit. But if you put a banana in, that thickens it up, so you don't need to use a lot of liquid, or you can just put in a little bit of juice of some sort. But if you throw in a banana and pears, and you can get frozen mangoes from Aldi that you can put in there that are everything free, like they're organic, so it's really good. And you can make yourself a really nice smoothie that means you don't have to eat the same fruit over and over and over again. Or I just finished stewing some pears because I look on pears the same way that somebody would look at, eating an elephant, rather unsavory. And I just can't make myself eat pears. I've been eating pears for so long; it's just gross. I can't do it. But I can eat them stewed on porridge, because I can make porridge because it's just oats. It's just oats and there's nothing else. So I can put my stewed pears on that with a bit of golden syrup, because that's what I can have, or maple syrup. I can have those syrups that are natural. Put that on top of there, and I can eat the fruit that I need during the day for that. So when it's too cold for that, stewing. We've actually got we were given an air fryer for Christmas. So it also does dehydrating and all sorts of wonderful things. So I'm going to have a go at drying some bananas and things like that, so I can eat them like chips. Because, bananas, there's only so much banana you can eat in a day before you just start looking at it and want to throw it at somebody. Um, Possibly the neighbours across the street when they're being a bit loud late at night. But yeah, so this is what I'm saying. You can live and live quite well with these sorts of difficulties. It's a real first world problem. We're not like those poor buggers in Ukraine or China that are being locked up for not agreeing with the government's problems. This is a real first world problem, having to restrict your diet. Um, but all you need is a little bit of time and a little bit of organization, and this is not the end of your life as you know it. You can have a great diet and just live just as healthy as you did before this happened, or even if your child is born with this issue. Um, you just need to be a little bit clever about it, and you can have just as good a diet. Like I bake cakes, and we have biscuits and all sorts of things. I'm even going to have a go at making hot cross buns, because everything seems to have cinnamon in it. And cinnamon is a terrible, terrible thing for me to eat. Instant vomiting. I'm pretty sure that if I ever have any cinnamon again, I'm going to vomit out my eyes. That's the amount of vomiting that I have from cinnamon. So everything has cinnamon in it now, from curry to, hot cross buns. So I'm actually going to have a go. I've discovered a recipe for homemade hot cross buns. So for Easter, I'm actually going to have a crack at that. So I think that should be fun. But yeah, it's like I said, it's okay. It's hard in the beginning until you get used to this and until you source your different places. But there is always going to be a Whole Foods store at a major center near where you live. And yes, it may, but the thing that I'm saying is the prices look extraordinary. But the thing you've got to look at is the price per unit. So, and especially if you take in your own jars and whatnot, and your own bags to carry your stuff out, there's always cards, like discount cards and things that they'll give you to encourage people to not use plastic and to bring your own jars. And you go and you may have to buy in bulk, because it's a Whole Food store, and buy 2 kilos of flour, which is what I buy anyway. But when you look at, most of the time, the only flour that is available is wheat flour in some form or another, which is okay, because most people are okay with that. But then, if you go to one of these places, the range of the range of flour is just extraordinary. And you really should try this, because you're not paying any more. And sometimes it's cheaper to buy like this because of the discounts and things that these places offer. It just takes a little bit of time to go there. And I understand people are very busy now, and blah, 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 time poor and blah, blah, blah. If you don't want to feel well and you don't want to eat properly, by all means, just keep going. But, to the supermarket and eating their rubbish fruit and just making do with the food that is full of preservatives and additives, if you are like me. If you can, like I said, go hell bent and furious. I have no problem with that. But if you're like me, take the time to find these places, or order online. There are so many places now that give you free shipping if you spend over 20 or 30 or $50. Find them. Find them and support them, and as Molly Meldrum has always said, do yourself a favor. You know, I don't know what we did before Google, but if you Google and you need to find something, which is what I do when I can't find something, you know, can I substitute oil for butter in this recipe? And somebody will always have done it first. They will trial and error it, and so you always have information, always. And cookbooks, go to your local op shops and wherever else, and buy these 50-cent cookbooks that have, um, well, I think, the whole vegan movement is just ridiculous, but some of their stuff in the use of substituting oils and things for dairy and things is quite helpful. I don't suggest that you become vegan. That's no. But some of their substitution methods for dairy and things like that in baking in these books is quite helpful. So yeah, so that is another way. And most cookbooks are like 30, 40, $50. Go to a Salvo's, go to a Vinnie's, go to an independent op shop. You usually pick this stuff up for like 50 cents, or they're in the free bin. So they will give them to you just to take them away so they have space. So, that's another thing that I have found quite helpful. And I do have quite a large cookbook collection now, because I found that people like Jamie Oliver and Nigella Lawson and people like this are very helpful to people like me, because they will have these recipes, but they will say, and I also have one that's the leftovers cookbook, which is great. That's a great one, because you'll have cabbage that's left over, and they'll say, you go to vegetables and it'll show you one to use that leftover cabbage. But Nigella and Jamie Oliver have these recipes for stuff, but they will always give you options of what you can use if you don't have exactly that. And for people like me, that is very helpful, because obviously most of the stuff they're cooking with I can't use. But then they'll say, instead of peanuts, use fruit bits, and you can substitute in this and this, which is always helpful. So I hope this has been a helpful video to somebody. If you have any questions, please feel free. As I come back and I check this regularly, I'm happy to help or have a conversation with you. Just leave me a message down below. If you are randomly watching this, please feel free to subscribe. I upload most weeks. Some of it is helpful stuff like this, and some of it's just random, silliness. But this is not a political forum, and this will not be, scripted, beautiful, edited things. This is just me sitting in front of a camera and just blurting out what's running through my tiny little mind on the day. So have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. Try not to go mad with the cost of fuel right now, and enjoy your life. Be nice to people. See you next week. Bye.